Levante presents e-commerce talks, where industry experts share their insights about the ever-changing world of e-commerce. Today we'll be talking with Head of Community Management at eCommerce, Thomas Leskowsky. All right, welcome one more time, guys. We have a special guest today, Thomas Leskowsky from Austria. And what is your role right now? You're working with eCommerce, right?
Yes, of course I do.
If you can tell us a little bit more about that before we start talking about the trends and what's going on in Austria and the market in general in the DACH region.
Okay, all right. eCommerce is like the e-commerce network or community in Austria. So we are hosting like the K5 in Austria. It's more or less a smaller event with like 700 people, just from the e-commerce society in Austria. We host it in Vienna mainly, but we've got 14 other events in Austria that we are hosting throughout the year. And on the other hand, we are a strategic e-commerce consultant, which means we are helping companies starting from the bottom, more or less. And on the other side, if there are already established brands or established online shops already, we help them to grow better and faster than they did before.
All right. And how is the ecosystem looking in Austria? I mean, we talked a little bit before, and you were saying that it looks like it's a bit behind. So you guys are trying to make them catch up with what's happening with the rest of the world. So how is it? Tell us a little bit more about the ecosystem in Austria, how are the companies coping with it?
It's very funny if we compare it with the whole DACH region. Everybody thinks it's all the same, and in the end, we are like 3 or 4 years behind Germany, which also means that the technical improvement takes some time. Also, we see it in the companies itself. They need to get the culture right to get the digitalization in general forward. That means we have to help them to get on the right track to keep up with the whole DACH region itself. So in Austria we got many merchants, many manufacturers, but I think the potential is still there, and we are just starting right now.
What are the areas that they're more advanced? I mean, what are for example, is it fashion? Is it video games? Or I mean, what are the companies that they're already getting there?
Yeah, it's more or less hidden champions. Like we used to say, I don't think we have like the big fashion brands, but we got like Swarovski and big family companies in Austria, from Scones or Hartlauer, Swarovski, all the names that you hear in Austria where you don't really know what's behind it. And where's the history starting, and where does it go already? And we also got very much industry in Austria. It's like in the upper part of Austria, where we've got a very tight section where all the companies sit and they just wait to get started in the whole e-commerce sector, and we're just crushing in.
And now, what are you guys bringing your knowledge from? I mean, obviously companies there, I mean, like Swarovski or things like that, they companies that they've been around for a while. So actually, let me rephrase the question. What are they mostly lacking? What are they looking for? Where do they need help?
First of all, they need to know that nowadays the customers want a different customer experience. For example, 10 years ago we started like with the desktop things, and it's awesome to buy some things online, and now we have to see that the customer is like a multi-channel guy or girl in the end. So we're starting to search online, then we go to the shop, then we purchase it online, and we're kind of used to that. But if the company itself doesn't offer that to the customer thinks like, okay, what's going on here? Does the company stop, or how will it go into the future? And there we have to set the point that we have to get into the culture itself, and also have to tell them that they need to have like the mobile first addiction. Our customers, like I think you will agree with that, we are all having our smartphones in our pocket, and we can shop wherever we want, however we want, and on which mobile phone or end devices we want.
Now, you mentioned that you work with smaller companies, newer companies, and also traditional companies that they're already settled, let's say. What are the main challenges for the new companies? Because I mean, I'm thinking the bigger companies, they have budget get everything fixed if needed.
Yeah.
But for the younger companies that are trying to break in, not only in the Austrian market, but eventually Europe and maybe the world, like what are them? What are the challenges for them?
They first have to know that they have to have a strategy. If, especially when they are starting into the e-commerce business, most of the people or the companies start like, okay, let's sell something online, and they try it. I like the spirit of just make some mistakes or failures. You can learn from that. It's the lessons learned we already all have heard about. But in the end, if you have too much mistakes and you don't learn from it, you will have no money in the end. And in the end, you will be disappointed that nothing happens like you want it like. So therefore, they really have to see where is their specific point in the market where they have to crush through. And on the other hand, that they have the right technical infrastructure on the other hand, that they can raise this e-commerce shop, for example, in the right direction.
So, and when you talk about eCommerce, your company, you guys are covering most of these steps, right? So you could grab one of the client's hand all the way till the end of the process, and technically wise, because I mean we know that there's how can I put it? There's not enough people to cover all the needs from the e-commerce world.
Yeah.
I mean, companies are having to outsource a lot, or they're having a hard time trying to find the right people.
Yeah.
How is Austria coping with this? I mean, do you guys have enough developers, or you have to outsource some of your stuff outside, and how's it working?
I think in the whole DACH region we won't have any developers at all. So it's like a never-ending story. There is too much needed and too less that's already offered on the market. So the companies try to catch from the other side more or less, and have to find other ways to get to the developers. That's also the thing in the companies itself. They are looking for outsourced developers that they can find wherever they want to, and try to integrate them into their own company. And it's more like the developer doesn't mind if they work from somewhere else.
Exactly.
In the end,
remote culture nowadays is
in the end, the end product more or less should fit in the end.
All right. And if we look, for example, at the cases that you guys been dealing with, what was one of the cases you're most proud, or I mean, not maybe just from your company, but in general from Austria, like one of the companies that adapted well or fast enough to go at least Europe-wide?
Okay, there would be many references more or less in the end, but we have like one of the biggest companies in Austria is, for example, Lagerhaus. They have like some, in Austria we say Genossenschaften. I don't know the English one already, but it's like
I'm sure someone will find it at home and
okay,
let us know what it is.
And they started at the right time to get on the e-commerce track already, because there are like many systems that have to be integrated, and it was a long journey to get where they are now. And everybody sees that this is not the end. If you are focusing to 2019, for example, to launch the online shop, everybody thinks of okay, and then check, it's done. No, it's not. E-commerce is like a never-ending journey in the end. So you still have to see what's on the market, which new technologies will host at the market, and you have to be on track. And that's also our part, to get the companies to know other companies which provide them with technologies and so on.
I mean, we've been doing a lot of Europe lately, and one of the main things that people brings up is GDPR, right? GDPR was something that came up not so long ago, and companies are still trying to adapt to that.
Yeah.
Into the whole GDPR, one of the main things that we've been also discussing is having a monolithic system versus microservices. So moving from your own server to different companies offering you all the solutions.
Yeah.
How is in the market in Austria? Do you see companies trusting moving it to the cloud, moving into microservices, or are they still very like, I'm not sure if I should put my stuff somewhere else?
50-50. I think there's no winner right now. We will see in the next 5 to 10 years where the journey will go. But I think nowadays the shift goes into the cloud because we've got like shows where they can pitch their product, for example, and they see, okay, I get as many customers I never calculated with. And now they see, okay, if I have like, for example, a cloud service, I can have as many customers as I want on that without closing my online shop for 1 hour or something.
Exactly.
Like that. It's like wasting money in every edge.
And are companies understanding the investment too? Going again to the example of big and small companies, are big companies aware of the transformation and the costs? And I don't mean just money-wise, but the cost of time and investment. Are they willing to do that, or some of them are trying to step back and say, no, we're fine, we will deal with that later?
Again, 50-50. You have to take them by the hand to see, okay, if you have like requirements to fulfill and you want something, you also have to be aware of that this will cost some time, money, whatever in the end. And we have to take them by the hand and see, okay, if you want to have those requirements already fulfilled, you have to invest now, because if you don't do it, you will get behind the newcomers, for example, which will see what's the chances behind those new technologies, for example, like PIM systems. You see, they have to do it. It's not if they do it, just when. It's just a question of when will they do it to keep on track.
And from all the biggest challenges, I mean, we know that Europe is not as powerful money-wise or market-wise like the US, right? I mean, the US is a massive market, and here we're still talking about how smaller countries are moving at different speeds. Like you said, Austria is a bit behind Germany, and maybe Switzerland is not even, I don't know, maybe they don't even care. I don't know.
I can tell, yeah.
But regarding the speeds, like how do you see the future of this? How are the countries in Europe in general trying to level up the way they sell, the way they relate to the customer, the way they actually face with e-commerce?
Okay, that's a very good question. Could you go a little bit deeper inside that?
I mean, basically, we'd love to know like how the different countries, or how do you see the future of the different countries leveling up their e-commerce efforts or the e-commerce knowledge, even the education of how much they know about the challenges to come?
I think that's also one of our missions in the end, to get out to the companies. It's also one of my main points in our company, to get to face the customers itself, to tell them what's new on the market. And I think we are also, as a news platform, it's our mission to tell them, okay, please, Austria, try to get to know new technologies, that you have to get back on track with all the countries around us. And therefore, I can't tell how we are, for example, compared with the US. I think there are still different worlds between us, not just kilometers. And in the end, we will see where the journey will go, and we will do our best to keep pushing forward everything around the technologies.
I'm going to ask you one question that we ask all of our guests. Like, if you have to recommend a good book or a good podcast for people that they're planning to go global or they're planning to move heavily into e-commerce,
okay,
what would you recommend?
Okay, there are very many. Let's see, which one would I recommend? I'm also writing on my own book. That's also a point something where I would suggest to read that, just comparing everything that we already learned from our references. And now I can tell, I think everything coming from the Amazon side shows best how you will get back to the status quo now, because Amazon also started with a bookstore and is now like hosting a marketplace, and we see that companies
they own the world, basically.
They own the world already, and we can see that on other companies. They just want to start a marketplace, and we say, hey, keep keep it slowly.
Yeah.
Start with your online shop and then go back to the marketplace. I can't tell which book is already exactly hitting this spot.
But that's the area that we should be looking at.
Therefore, you should look into that.
Cool, Thomas. And thank you so much for joining us today. And I mean, I love talking about trends, especially in Europe. And it's great to see that Austria is. I'm sure it's going to move a little bit faster. Thanks to you guys.
Thank you for having us.
And thank you guys for watching it one more time. We'll see you next time.